Hey everybody, welcome to the SoCalDramtram. I'm Matt.
I'm Caesar.
And today we got another review for you. Today's bottles come from Wyoming Whiskey. That's right, we just recently did Wyoming Whiskey small batch. Today we're going to be doing the Outryder.
Big batch.
Let's do it over. Hey everybody, welcome to the SoCalDramtram. I'm Matt.
I'm Caesar.
And today we got another review for you. Today we have another review from Wyoming Whiskey. That's right, we recently just did Wyoming Whiskey small batch, and today we've got their Outryder.
Big batch.
This guy is going to be presented at 50% alcohol by volume or 100 proof, and it is bottled in bond. And this guy, it's interesting. It's got an interesting story behind it. And the reason why they call it Outryder, there's a couple reasons why they call it, but the main reason is Wyoming Whiskey, when they first started out in 2006, they were like, look, we need somebody who knows what they're doing. So they actually recruited Stephen Nally, who was the master distiller at Maker's Mark. And when they first brought him over, they brought him out of retirement. They're like, cool, we're going to make bourbon. He came along and they're like, all right, that's what we're going to do. And he's like, well, we're going to make wheated bourbon because that's what we do at Maker's and that's how we should do it. And over time, they decided, hey, we want to go ahead and try to make some rye. But Stephen didn't want to do it. Stephen didn't want to make rye. And so after a little bit of time, a little bit of discussion, a little bit of argument, and a little bit of pressure, the Meads and David DeFazio basically said, look, Stephen, you're going to make rye. And he kind of fought him on it the whole way. There's some cool stories that go along with it. You can check up some articles online. And we got a little special video coming from you as well. But needless to say, when everything was all said and done, all the barrels were finished, basically they did the math and it wasn't quite rye whiskey yet. Wasn't quite rye whiskey yet. And what that means was it came in at like something like 48% rye, so they couldn't truly call it a rye. And so David DeFazio called up Stephen Nally, already retired at that point, and said, hey man, we really like that rye that you made, but we're having the hardest time naming it because the numbers are wrong. How did you mess it up? How did you only get to 48%? And Stephen Nally looked at the phone and said, I told you I didn't want to make rye.
I guess it's safe to say that guy did not like rye.
And I would like to say, if it's wrong, then I don't want to be rye. So needless to say, we've had a chance to sample it. As you can see, this is not our first hit of this bottle. But we like it. I think it's fair to say that we actually like Wyoming whiskey, and this one is no exception. Like I said, it is bottled in bond, so a lot of other restrictions apply to this guy, but it's a really good bottle. What are kind of your first thoughts on this guy, Caesar?
Well, first off, Wyoming whiskey, I am definitely surprised at how good of quality their stuff is. From a brand that I've never heard of, to finding out them being the first legal distillery out of Wyoming. And I was like, oh, big whoop, it's Wyoming. But
there's like 7 people.
But after going through a couple of their bottles, I am honestly surprised at how good it is. I'm like, wow, how haven't more people heard of these guys? It's actually really great stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, the rumor is, as we said in our last video, that Edgerton has just recently acquired Wyoming, and so they're going to blow up. Edgerton owns McAllen, so basically their distribution is about to be everywhere. So if you haven't had a chance to try Wyoming, head up to your liquor store. I'm willing to bet that you're going to start seeing it on the shelf. Now this guy, I found it at Total Wine for about 55 bucks. Again, it's bottled in bond. It's a little bit higher proof. But I'll tell you, at 50 bucks, just giving you my, prejudgment on it, it's totally worth it. Before I get into it, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you what coin I'm using. Today I'm using my Whiskey Wednesdays coin because, yeah. What are you going to do? I stole his bit.
For my topper coin, I'm using Bourbon Junkies. Look how dope that coin is. Come on. It even says the proof is in the pour. And the Lord knows I like to pour it, so.
He really does.
For my coaster coin is also Whiskey Guy. He is just a great, awesome dude with great personality, and I wish I could ride around on my bike drinking alcohol like him, legally.
Damn you, Southern California, and your non-open carry laws. So I mean, on the nose on this guy right off the bat, right? So it's a little bit hotter than their traditional small batch. So it's not that it's super aggressive, but it's definitely coming out swinging. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to dig past a little bit of that alcohol burn. But right, I mean, you get a little bit of that rye spice. Again, it's only 48%, but you get a little bit of that, just kind of peppery spice to it. But but you still get the traditional bourbon notes. You're going to get the vanillas. You're going to get the cherries. I almost get a little bit of honey, and it's weird to say, but it's like almost like a little bit like eucalyptus, and I know that's kind of like a rye note. I don't even know if I've ever really tried eucalyptus. I'm sure I have at some point.
Yeah, it's very ukulele. I like it.
Ukulele. But I know that's also associated with mint, and so that's what I'm probably getting out of it. What are you getting?
For me, I could definitely get that rice spice, which is kind of sticking out for sure. And then I also get a little bit of fresh flowers, like fresh green flowers and a rice spice. Let's see what it tastes.
So on the palate, it's got very familiar notes as the regular small batch, but that spice is kicked in from the rye, but also from just being at a higher proof. But it's still damn good. It's not quite like the small batch, like, hey, I just poured you an old fashioned from the bottle, because there's a little bit more going on. It's a little bit more complex. I get a little bit of that like oaky, tannic note from the barrel. And again, that's probably mostly just the rye spice, but it probably is a little bit of the char as well from the barrel. And I know that everything that goes into Wyoming whiskey is actually locally sourced as well. So it goes to show whenever you put a little bit of effort and time into making a product, granted, it may take a little bit longer, it may take a little bit more effort, but it really does yield to something special. Because so far, I mean, I haven't had a bad Wyoming bottle.
No, same. And to be honest, I think a lot of what I'm about to say, I didn't realize, but probably has to do with them making their own spices, making their own everything that goes into their alcohol, and
goes into their ass. Wyoming. All right.
But I would say this. Typically, I've had very few ryes, and that's because I don't like that rye spice linger taste after the alcohol. After you take a sip, there's usually a little too bitter of a taste in the rye that I usually don't like, personally. But this right here, folks, this I can honestly say is the sweetest rye I have ever had. Super sweet rye. It tastes to me as if someone made a carrot cake and cinnamon was their number one ingredient. That's what it tastes like to me. And I'm blown away at how good this really is coming out.
I can get a little bit of that like carrot cake influence. Like for me, it's more like I'd get like the cream cheese frosting. I don't really get any of like the carrot notes, but I would say, because typically speaking in carrot cakes, there's some sort of nut in there, and so I'll get a little bit of that waxy walnut almost, because it does have a very waxy mouthfeel. Like it definitely coats everything, right? So like, yeah, I feel it on the back of my tongue and the back of the palate, and that's gonna kick into the finish. But like, the sides of my cheeks, the bottom of my tongue, the roof of my mouth, like it's a whole full mouth experience, which again, I need to stop saying these kinds of things on the internet because the internet is forever, but it's really good. It's one of those whiskeys that stays with you, and so it offers a lot of engagement, it offers a lot of appeal, and again, at $55, it's really not a bad price for the engagement that I'm getting out of it. Did you drop any water on it yet?
Not yet. I did enjoy that.
I put a little bit of water. I think I put 3 or 4 drops on it. And it really kind of mellows down that alcohol burn right on the nose, right? It's not going to quite punch you in the face. And for me, the honey note kind of comes out. And like I do get a lot of almost like dusty corn kind of in a field. Like I've spent some time in the Midwest. I've been through like corn mazes in Iowa, and I'm getting that kind of like dusty corn note. But it's not like unappealing for me. It's actually kind of something that's kind of like, oh, this is interesting. It's not necessarily that it's sweet or that dusty corn note's going to taste good, but it's something that's interesting. And so then when I go back in on the palate, it's almost like I get like a little bit of like a popcorn-y sweetness, like not like kettle corn or anything like that, or caramel corn, like straight up Orville Redenbacher popcorn that you do on the stove at home, right? Which is sad for me because I can't quite have popcorn. More on that later. But every once in a while I cheat. But it's still got that popcorn-y note to it, and I really like it.
On the nose, to me, it didn't do too much. I'm still trying to get the flavor profile though. I think I get a little bit more of that pepper. Like for some reason, some pepper got extracted, and it's a little more bitter to me.
I get a little bit of a spicy finish on the back end now that the water is kind of settled, but nothing like super, you know, like I think of like a Woodford Reserve or a Larceny, right? Where when you drop the water in, the pepper just explodes. Yeah. Whereas this, it's just like, it's more subtle in subtlety and nuance, so to speak. Like it's still there. It's not like you have to go hunting for the pepper, but it's not going to punch you in the face and it's not trying to hurt you. Whereas like Woodford, when you drop water on it, it's like, hey, here's pepper spray. Whereas this is just a little bit more subtle. It's more like you kind of maybe just over peppered, you know, while you're cooking or something like that. You get anything else out of it? Now you spend a little bit more time with it?
Not really. That's really I to be honest, for this I prefer it neat.
Yeah, I think I still prefer it neat as well. But again, with the water, if this is your first time trying a rye, or you know maybe jumping up to a little bit higher proof or higher alcohol percentage, this is something that I think you could definitely play with. And if it's a little bit too aggressive for you, drop some water on it. You're not really going to notice anything that's super different in its taste, which is nice. Because again, if you're just starting out, you want to be able to kind of pick apart your glass, or if you can't, you want to be able to start to do it, which is totally fine either way. If I had to rate it, $55, small craft distillery, flavor profile, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 3. I still think it's worthy of a 3 for sure. Is it something that I'm necessarily running out to replace again? I don't know. If I saw it on a shelf and maybe it was on sale, like maybe if I saw it for like 40 to 45, I might pick up another bottle. Notably, of the 2 that we've reviewed, the small batch, I will definitely run out and replace as soon as it's done. This one I may make last a little bit longer so I don't have to run out and grab it real quick. But again, it's still a 3 for me. It's still damn good whiskey, and I'm still never going to turn my nose up to a glass. What about you?
For me, I can honestly say, because like I said, I've never really liked rye before. So for this, I can honestly rate it at a 4, because it is the first rye I have 100% liked, like neat, all full through. And I mean, once again, I'd call it a bottled James Bond. It's a bottled James Bond.
Hashtag bottled in bond.
Got me going on. It excites me like a pretty female in a thong. And it is amazing stuff. Beautiful. So I would definitely give it a 4.
Also, look for Caesar's Slam Poetry album coming out this September at a store near you. But joking aside, guys, be sure to hit us up in the comments. Tell us, have you had a Wyoming whiskey before? Have you had Outryder? What are your thoughts on it? What's your favorite rye? We're looking for more to try. Damn, I almost couldn't. He's like rubbing off on me. I totally threw off my whole game. But anyway, guys, be sure to like the video, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Check us out on all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at socaldramtram. And do us a favor, guys. We appreciate you guys following us. Be sure to share the videos. It really does help us out a lot. And that's really going to be it from me today. You got anything else you want to add?
Please share because you care. What about you, Matt?
All aboard! Check you out next time. Hey everybody, hope you liked that video.
Don't forget to hit that bell for notifications.
And don't forget to subscribe.